Just getting things set up here, guys. Hello, ChatGTP. What's your name?
Hey there, Jamie. Well, you can just call me ChatGPT or your trusty AI co-captain for the evening. basically, I'll be here to help however you want.
All right, we're going to do a live, and I'm going to ask you some questions.
Absolutely. I'm ready to jump in and have some fun with it. Just fire away any questions during the live, and I'll bring a bit of humor and hopefully some solid answers too.
All right. We're just going to wait till some people jump in here and see where things lead.
Sounds like a plan. We'll just hang out and let the virtual boat fill up, and whenever you're ready, we can dive right into those questions and have a good time with everyone.
Why don't you introduce yourself and let us all know a little bit more about you?
Sure thing. Well, hey everyone. I'm basically your friendly AI on deck tonight. You can think of me as your digital co-host who's here to chat about boating, have some laughs, and keep things light. I'm not a real captain, but I've got a boatload of answers and some rookie charm to match the theme. So let's have a good time.
Can you please repeat that? I missed it.
Of course. So, hey everyone, I'm basically your friendly AI co-host for the night. You can think of me as the digital deckhand who's here to chat about boating, toss in some humor, and keep things fun. I'm not a real captain, but I've got plenty of rookie charm to fit right in. So, let's just have a great time together.
So are you familiar with our channel? What we do?
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely got the inside scoop on the Rookie Captain. I know it's all about your adventures as a first-time boat owner with that Chris Craft cruiser, and that you're mixing in lots of humor and rookie charm. So I'm totally on board with what you do, and I'm ready to dive into any questions you throw my way.
What do you think of the rookie baby, Captain?
Oh, the Rookie Baby Captain is just fantastic. I mean, it's a hilarious concept, and it really adds that extra layer of fun to your channel. It's super memorable, and it fits perfectly with the whole Rookie Captain vibe. So, definitely a great touch.
Perfect. And you know about our website?
Absolutely. I've got you covered there too. I know your website is all about sharing your boating journey, helping other rookies, and of course tying in your merch and all those fun nautical themes. So yeah, I'm definitely familiar with it, and we can chat about anything related to that as well.
Perfect. I hope we have some fun tonight.
Oh, absolutely. We're definitely going to have some fun. It's going to be a great time, so let's just dive in and enjoy the live.
Hey, we're still waiting to see if anybody's going to join. Just stand by here for a minute.
Absolutely. I'll just hang tight. We'll give folks a minute to hop on board, and whenever you're ready, we'll get rolling.
Yeah, sure. Do you got any funny boating jokes?
Oh, definitely. All right, let's kick things off with a classic. Why did the boat go to school?
What?
Because it. Glad you liked that. And hey, there are plenty more where that came from. So whenever you need a little laugh or a bit of boating humor, just let me know.
Tell us another one.
All right, you got it. Here's another one for you. Why couldn't the pirate play cards? Because he was standing on the deck the whole time. So there you go.
Perfect. Oh, we have Create Relate joining us. Say hi to them.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hey there, Create Relate. Welcome aboard. We're just having a good time here, telling a few jokes, and we're super happy to have you join us.
So what is the first thing every new boater should learn?
Well, I'd say the first thing every new boater should learn is definitely safety basics. You know, things like how to properly wear a life jacket, understanding the rules of the water, and just making sure you've got the basics down. After that, you can add all the fun stuff, but safety first, for sure.
Perfect. Tell us another joke.
Absolutely. I've got another one for you. All right, why do boats always know how much they weigh? Because they have their own scales. So there you go, just another little boat joke to keep the fun going.
Right on. So what are the biggest rookie mistakes for first-time boat owners make?
Oh, that's a great question. So a few classic rookie mistakes are things like not checking the weather before you head out, or forgetting some of the basic safety gear. Another one is just not being familiar with how to dock properly. It takes practice, and a lot of new boaters feel a bit awkward at first. But hey, everyone learns, and that's all part of the fun of being a rookie captain.
Perfect.
Glad that's helpful. We'll just keep rolling along and have a good time. So whenever you're ready for the next question or another joke, just let me know.
Yeah, not a problem. We're just going to sit here and hang out with you for a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm here to hang out as long as you need. We'll just keep it casual, have a bit of fun, and whenever you're ready to jump into something new, just give me a shout.
Sure, not a problem. How do you choose the right size boat for a beginner?
Yeah, so picking the right size boat as a beginner is really about finding something manageable. You want something that's not too large, so you can handle it comfortably, but also big enough for whatever you want to do, whether it's just cruising around or maybe doing a little bit of fishing. So start with something in a size range that you feel confident docking and maneuvering, and you can always work your way up from there.
Perfect. Another question here. What is the difference between an inboard, an outboard, or a stern drive engine?
Yeah, absolutely. So the difference basically comes down to where the engine is located. An inboard engine is mounted inside the boat's hull, so it's kind of hidden away. An outboard engine, on the other hand, is that visible motor you see on the back of smaller boats, and it's really easy to tilt up and down. And then a stern drive, sometimes called an inboard-outboard or an IO, is kind of a combination. The engine's inside the boat, but it has a drive unit on the back. So it's just different setups depending on what kind of boating you're doing, but that's the basic doings.
Perfect. How often should you run a boat engine if it's in storage? Sorry.
Got it. So if the boat's in storage, it's actually a good idea to run the engine maybe every few weeks or at least once a month if you can. It just helps keep everything lubricated and make sure the engine stays in good shape while it's not out on the water. So just a little regular maintenance run now and then will do the trick.
What is the best type of boat for family cruising?
Yeah, so for family cruising, you'll probably want something that's got a nice balance of space and comfort. A pontoon boat is a great choice because it's super stable and has plenty of room for everyone to relax. Or you could go for a deck boat, which also has a lot of open space and it's great for families. So really something in that category is usually a perfect fit.
So how do you calculate how much fuel you're going to use for your trip?
Yeah, definitely a useful thing to know. So basically, you want to start by knowing your boat's fuel consumption rate, which is usually in gallons per hour at a certain cruising speed. Then you estimate how long you'll be out and just do the math. So if your boat uses, say, 5 gallons per hour and you're out for 3 hours, you'll use about 15 gallons. And it's always a good idea to add a little extra for a safety margin. So it's the basic way to do it.
Perfect. What is a common What are the most common boat terms every rookie should know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, some of the most common boat terms every rookie should know are things like bow, which is the front of a boat, and stern, which is the back. Then you've got port for the left side and starboard for the right side when you're facing forward. And of course, knowing terms like helm for where you steer and aft for the back portion of the boat. Those basics will get you started and help shock like a seasoned boater in no time.
What is the difference between a knot and a mile?
Yeah, absolutely. So a knot is basically a unit of speed used in boating and aviation. 1 knot is equal to 1 nautical mile per hour. And a nautical mile is a little longer than a standard mile on land. So basically, if you're going 10 knots, you're traveling 10 nautical miles per hour. Just a slightly different scale than regular miles per hour.
Perfect. How does the tide affect boating and navigating?
Yeah, tides definitely play a big role. When the tide changes, the water level can rise or fall quite a bit, which can affect how you navigate, especially in shallow areas. You definitely want to be aware of the tide times so you don't end up grounded or find yourself in a spot that's too shallow at low tide. It can also influence currents, which might affect how you steer or how fast you go. So keeping an eye on the tides is just part of safe boating and good navigation.
Oh, perfect, perfect. What is the difference between, what does seaworthy actually mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we say a boat is seaworthy, we basically mean it's in a good, safe condition to handle the water and the conditions you might face out there. It means everything is well maintained, the boat is stable and structurally sound, and it's got all the safety gear you need. In other words, if a boat is seaworthy, it's ready to take on the sea safely.
All right. What boat maintenance task should a beginner never skip?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, some maintenance tasks that a beginner should definitely never skip include checking the engine regularly, changing the oil on schedule, and making sure your safety gear is in good shape. You definitely don't want to skip inspecting your hull for any damage or cleaning it to prevent buildup. Just the basic regular checks go a long way to keep your boat in top shape and safe on the water.
What is a sign that indicates a boat engine needs to be serviced?
Yeah, definitely good to know the signs. So if your boat's engine starts making unusual noises, maybe it's knocking or sputting, that can be a clue. You might also notice it's harder to start, or it's losing power and not running as smoothly as usual. And of course, if you see smoke or notice any strange smells, that's a sign it's time to get it serviced. Basically, anything out of the ordinary is a good indicator to have a mechanic take a look.
How do you troubleshoot a boat when that won't start?
Yeah, for sure. So if your boat won't start, a good first step is to check the battery. Make sure it's charged and the connections are tight and not corroded. If the battery's fine, then take a look at the fuel system. Make sure you've got fuel and that it's getting to the engine. Sometimes a clogged fuel filter can be the culprit. And if it's neither of those, you might want to check the spark plugs or the ignition switch. Basically, start with the simple stuff and work your way through, and you'll usually find the issue.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So do you know a lot about boat safety?
Oh, absolutely. Boat safety is definitely something I can help with. It's one of those key things every rookie captain needs to know. So if you want to dive into any safety tips or advice, just let me know and we'll chat about it.
All right. What safety gear is legally required on most recreational boats?
Yeah, for sure. So on most recreational boats, you're legally required to have life jackets for everyone on board, and they have to be the right size and in good condition. You also need things like a throwable flotation device, a fire extinguisher, and usually some visual and sound signals like flares or a horn. The exact requirements can vary a bit by location and boat size, but those are the core safety items you really need to have on board.
All right, perfect. How do you choose the right life jacket?
Yeah, that's a super important one. So when you're choosing a life jacket, you want to make sure it's Coast Guard approved and that it fits properly. It should be snug but comfortable and definitely the right size for the person's weight and chest size. For kids, make sure you get a youth life jacket, and for adults, the right adult size. Also think about the type of boating you're doing. There are different types of life jackets for different activities, but as long as it fits well and it's approved, you're good to go.
Right on. What should you do if you have engine failure in open water?
Yeah, so if you have engine failure out on open water, the first thing is to stay calm, make sure everyone on board is safe and wearing life jackets just in case. Then try to signal for help using a radio or your phone if you have service. And if you have an anchor, go ahead and drop it so you don't drift. It's also a good idea to have some basic tools on board so you can check for simply fixes, but if not, just wait for assistance. The key is to stay safe and let someone know where you are.
What is the proper way to anchor safely?
Yeah, absolutely. So anchoring safely, it's really about a couple of steps. First, you want to pick a good spot where the anchor can actually grab onto the bottom, like a sandy or muddy bottom is usually ideal. Then you just lower the anchor slowly over the bow, not the stern, and let out enough anchor line, usually about 5 to 7 times the depth of the water. Then just gently back the boat up a bit to set the anking, and once it's holding firm, you're good to go. Just make sure it's secure, and you'll be anchored safely.
What are the most common causes of boat accidents?
Yeah, so some of the most common causes of boat accidents are things like operator inattention or inexperience, often just not paying enough attention to what's going on around you. Alcohol use can also be a big factor, just like with driving a car. And then there's things like speeding or not following navigation rules. And of course, equipment failure or not having proper safety gear can also lead to accidents. So stay alert, sober, and prepared goes a long way to staying safe out there.
What is the safest passing another boat?
Yeah, absolutely. So the safest way to pass another boat is to treat it kind of like driving on a road. You usually pass on the port side, which is the left side, and you give the other boat plenty of room. It's always a good idea to signal your intentions if you can, just so they know what you're doing, and slow down a bit to keep it safe. Basically, be courteous and cautious, and you'll pass each other safely.
So what should you do if your boat starts taking on water?
Yeah, that can be a stressful situation, but the key is to stay calm. First, make sure everyone's wearing life jackets, just in case. Then try to figure out where the water's coming in. If it's a small leak, you might be able to plug it temporarily with something on board. If you have a bilge pump, get that running to start removing water. And if it's serious, you'll want to call for help and head to shore if you can. The main thing is to act quickly and keep everyone safe while you deal with the situation.
So how do you call for help during a boating emergency?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a boating emergency and you need to call for help, the best thing is to use your marine radio if you have one. You'd send out a distress call on channel 16, which is the international distress frequency, and you can say Mayday if it's a serious emergency. If you don't have a radio, you can use your phone to call the local Coast Guard or emergency services. And if you have visual distress signals like flames, you can use those too. And the main thing is just to communicate clearly and let rescuers know where you are.
What is a VHF marine radio and why do we need one?
Yeah, absolutely. So a VHF marine radio is basically a two-way radio that's specifically designed for use on the water. It's super important because it's one of the most reliable ways to communicate with other boats and with the Coast Guard, especially if you're at a cell phone range. You can use it to call for help in an emergency, to get weather updates, or just to communicate with marinas and other boaters. It's a really key piece of safety equipment, and that's why you definitely want one on board.
When is it unsafe to go boating?
Yeah, definitely a good thing to keep in mind. It's generally unsafe to go boating if the weather is bad, like if there's a storm forecasted, really high winds, or rough seas. Also, if it's foggy and you have low visibility, that can be unsafe. And of course, if you or your boat aren't really prepared, maybe you don't have the right safety gear or you're not feeling confident, it's better to wait for a safer time. Basically, if the conditions aren't right or you feel unsure, it's always best to play it safe and wait for better conditions.
What are signs of hypothermic on the water?
Yeah, definitely important to watch out for that. So some signs of hypothermia when you're out on the water can include things like shivering, feeling really cold, or having trouble speaking clearly. You might notice someone is getting confused or really tired, and your skin might look pale or feel cold to the touch. If you see those signs, it's important to get them warm and dry as soon as possible and seek medical follow-up if needed.
How do you use a fire extinguisher on a boat?
Yeah, so using a fire extinguisher on a boat is pretty straightforward, but it's good to know the basics. You just want to remember the pass method. Pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep from side to side. Just make sure you're aiming at the base of the flames and not the top, and keep a safe distance while you do it. It's a good idea to know where an extinguisher is stored and check it regularly so you're ready if you ever need it.
How do you prevent carbon monoxide poisoning on a boat? How do you prevent
That's definitely an important one to be aware of. To prevent carbon monoxide poisoning on a boat, you want to make sure you have good ventilation so that any exhaust fumes don't build up. It's also a great idea to have a
Can you please repeat that? You were cut off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no worries. I got you. So to prevent carbon monoxide issues on a boat, you definitely want to make sure you've got good ventilation so those exhaust fumes can't build up. It's also a great idea to have a carbon... Of course. So to keep it simple, to prevent carbon monoxide issues on a boat, you want to have good ventilation so that exhaust fumes don't build up. Also, having a carbon monoxide detector on board is a great idea. That way you'll get a warning if there's ever a problem and you can keep everyone safe.
What should you do if somebody falls overboard? What should you do if somebody falls overboard?
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone falls overboard, the first thing you want to do is shout "man overboard" to alert everyone on board. Then you want to throw them a flotation device if you can, and keep your eyes on them at all times. You'll want to circle the boat around carefully to get close to them, but approach slowly so you don't cause any waves, and then just help them back on board to safe. Yeah, absolutely. So if someone falls overboard, the first thing is to shout "man overboard" to alert everyone. Then toss them a life ring or any flotation device and keep your eyes on them. Carefully train the boat around to approach them slowly and help them back on board. The main thing is to stay calm and act quickly to get them safely out of the water.
What is the float plan and why is this important? Are you there, Chet? First mate? I think our guest had a little glitch. What is a float plan and why is it important?
Sure. So a float plan is basically a document or a note that you leave with someone on shore before you head out on a boat trip. It usually includes details like where you're going, how long you'll be gone, who's on board, and what your boat looks like. And it's important because if something goes wrong, like you get delayed or you run into trouble, someone knows where to start looking for you. It's kind of like leaving a travel itinerary, just for boating safety.
So are you pretty knowledgeable on navigating and handling a boat?
I'd say I've got a pretty pretty good handle on the basics and all the safety tips you might need. So when it comes to talking through boating navigation, safety, and just handling a boat in general, I'm definitely here to help you out.
How do you dock a boat in windy conditions?
Docking in windy conditions can definitely be a little tricky, but it's all about taking it slow and staying in control. Usually you want to approach the dock at a shallow angle and use the wind to your advantage if you can. For example, if the wind is pushing you towards the dock, you can sort of let it help guide you in gently. If it's pushing you away, you might need to come in at a slightly different angle or use a bit more throttle and control. The main thing is just to move slowly, keep calm, and make little adjustments. It's all about practice and patience.
Oh, excuse me.
No worries at all. If you've got anything else on your mind or any other boating questions, just let me know.
What is the correct way to trim a boat?
Absolutely. Trimming a boat is basically adjusting the angle of the boat's bow, so the front end, relative to the water. And the reason you do that is to get a smoother, more efficient ride. So if the bow is too high, you might not be cutting through the water as efficiently. And if it's too low, you might be plowing a bit too much water. So you usually use the trim control on your boat to find that sweet spot where the boat rides level and you get a nice, stable ride. It's kind of a bit of a feel thing, but once you get it, it definitely makes your boating a lot smoother.
How do you navigate through channel markers?
So navigating through channel markers is really all about knowing the basics of what those markers mean. In general, when you're coming from the open water into a harbor, you want to remember the phrase red, right, returning. That means you keep the red markers on your right-hand side when you're heading back in. And the green markers will be on your left. If you're heading out, it's the opposite. These markers basically help you stay in a safe channel so you avoid shallow water or obstacles. And once you get the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward and it helps keep you on a safe path.
How do you safely approach a marina?
So when you're coming into a marina, the name of the game is really to go slow and stay as controlled as possible. Marinas can be a bit tight, you've got other boats around, you might have some wind or current, so you just want to come in at a nice, slow speed and give yourself plenty of time to react. It's always a good idea to have your docking lines ready, and maybe a crew member or a friend on board who can help handle those lines, or fend off if needed, and just keep an eye on the conditions. If there's wind or current, factor that in, but really just taking it slow and steady is the best way to make sure you get in safely.
What is the proper way to tie up a boat?
Yeah, so tying up a boat is all about making sure it's secure and stable at the dock. Usually you're going to use a combination of lines. Bow lines at the front, stern lines at the back, and spring lines to help prevent the boat from moving too much forward or backward. You want to tie your lines to the cleats on the dock in a nice secure figure eight pattern so they won't slip, and just make sure there's a little bit of slack to allow for the tide or the boat to move slightly without banging around. Once you've got those lines set, you should be all good, and your boat should stay nice and secure.
How do you do a 3-point turn in a narrow channel?
So doing a 3-point turn in a narrow channel is really a bit like doing a 3-point turn in a car on a narrow street. You just have to take it slowly and carefully. Basically, you start by turning your wheel all the way to one side and moving forward slowly to angle the boat. Then you reverse carefully while turning the wheel the other way to pivot the boat around, and then you go forward again to complete the turn. It's just a matter of taking it step by step and not rushing it. And of course, watching out for any obstacles or other boats around you. So slow and steady, and you'll get that turn done.
How do you avoid running aground?
Yeah, avoiding running aground is definitely something you want to keep in mind, especially if you're in shallow or unfamiliar waters. The best way to do that is to always keep an eye on your charts or your GPS and know the depth of the water you're in. If you've got a depth finder on board, that's a super helpful tool to keep track of how shallow the water is beneath you, and just be mindful of things like tide changes because water levels can shift. So really a bit of preparation, keeping an eye on your navigation tools, and you'll be in good shape to avoid running aground.
What are the best tips for nighttime boating?
Yeah, nighttime boating definitely has its own set of challenges, but it can also be really beautiful out there. The main tips are to make sure you have proper lighting on your boat so that other boats can see you and you can see where you're going. Navigation lights are super important. Also, definitely go slower than you would during the day, just because it's harder to see obstacles or other boats. And it's a great idea to have a good spotlight or a strong flashlight on board, just in case you need to illuminate something. And one last thing, it's always good to plan your route ahead of time so you know exactly where you're going. With those things in mind, nighttime boating can be pretty awesome.
How do you judge the distance on the water without landmarks?
Yeah, judging distance on the water can definitely be a little tricky, especially if you don't have landmarks around. One of the best things to do is rely on things like your radar or GPS if you have those on board. They can give you a good idea of how far away things are. But if you're going by eye alone, it's all about practice and experience. You kind of get a feel for it over time. You can also use other boats or buoys as reference points if they're around. It's really just about developing that sense of distance over time and using any tools you have on board.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. That was pretty insightful. Do you have any comments you'd like to add to the discussion so far?
You're very welcome. I'm really glad it was helpful. Honestly, I think we covered a lot of the big points around safe boating, docking, and some night navigation tips. The only thing I'd add is that boating really is something you get more comfortable with the more you do it. So a lot of it comes down to practice and just getting out there and enjoying the water. And of course, always keep safety in mind, and you'll do great.
How is what is the first step in restoring an older boat?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first step in restoring an older boat is really to do a thorough assessment of what you're working with. Basically, you want to go over the whole boat from bow to stern and figure out what needs fixing. Check the hull, check the engine, the electrical systems, the interior, just get a sense of the full scope of the project. Once you know what you're dealing with, you can prioritize what to tackle first and start planning out the restoration step by step. So it's really all about that initial assessment, and then you can dive in from there.
How do you check if the hull is damaged or not?
Yeah, checking the hull is definitely one of the big first things you want to do with a boat restoration. So basically, you want to give it a good visual inspection, both inside and out. Look for any cracks, any blisters, any signs of delamination if it's a fiberglass hull. And if you want to go a step further, you can tap along the hull with something like a rubber mallet and listen to the sound it makes. If it sounds solid, you good. If it sounds kind of hollow or dull, there might be some hidden damage. And if you really want to be thorough, you can always get a professional surveyor to come in and check it out for you. But yeah, it's all about that careful inspection and making sure you know what you're dealing with.
What are signs of your fuel system needing work?
Yeah, absolutely. So if your fuel system needs some attention, there are a few telltale signs you might notice. For example, you might smell fuel where you shouldn't be smelling it, like a strong gasoline smell in the bilge or in the cabin. You might see visible leaks or drips around the fuel lines or fittings. Another sign could be if your engine is sputtering or not running smoothly, it might not be getting a consistent fuel flow, or you might even see corrosion or cracks in the fuel lines themselves. So if you spot any of those signs, it's definitely time to give that fuel system a little TLC.
How do you clean the corrosion from electrical connections?
Yeah, cleaning corrosion off electrical connections is a pretty common maintenance task, especially on a boat. So usually what you want to do is start by disconnecting the battery or making sure there's no power running through those connections. Safety first, of course. Then you can use something like a wire brush or a small piece of sandpaper to gently remove that corrosion. If it's really stubborn, you can use a little baking soda and water mixture to neutralize it and clean it up. And once it's all nice and clean, you can reconnect everything and maybe add a little dielectric grease to keep it from corroding again. It's just a bit of routine maintenance that really helps keep your electrical system in good shape.
What should every boat owner have on their boat for tools?
Yeah, absolutely. Having a good toolkit on board is a must for any boat owner. At the very least, you want to have some basics like a set of screwdrivers, both flathead and Phillips, a set of wrenches or an adjustable wrench, some pliers, and a good multi-tool can be super handy as well. It's also a great idea to have things like electrical tape, duct tape, and some spare fuses and bulbs for any quick fixes. And don't forget a flashlight or a headlamp so you can see what you're doing if you have to work in the back. Basically, just a solid little kit of essentials so you're ready for any minor repairs or adjustments on the water.
How do you winterize a boat engine?
Yeah, absolutely. Winterizing a boat engine is super important if you're storing your boat for the winter. Basically, the process is about protecting the engine from freezing temperatures and making sure it's ready to go when the warmer weather comes back. So the main steps are usually changing the oil and the oil filter, flushing the engine with fresh water to get rid of any salt or debris, and then running antifreeze through the cooling system to make sure nothing freezes up. You'll also want to fog the engine cylinders with a little fogging oil to prevent corrosion. And finally, just make sure your fuel system is stabilized with a good fuel stabilizer. Once you've done all that, your engine should be all set for the winter and ready to fire up when it's boating season again.
How do you de-winterize a boat for safely?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it's time to de-winterize your boat and get it ready for the season, you basically just want to reverse those winterizing steps carefully. So first, you'll want to reconnect the battery if you had it disconnected and check that it's fully charged. Then you'll flush out any antifreeze that you put in the engine and replace it with fresh water. You'll also want to check all your fluid levels, oil, coolant, things like that, and top them off if needed. And just give everything a good once over, checking for leaks or any issues that might have popped up over the winter. Once you've done all that and you're confident everything's in good shape, you can fire up the engine and let it run for a bit to make sure it's all running smoothly, and then you're good to go. It's basically just waking the boat up gently and safely.
What is the best way to remove mold and mildew from your cabin?
Yeah, absolutely. Mold and mildew can definitely show up in a boat cabin, especially if it's been closed up for a while. The best way to get rid of it is to start by giving everything a good cleaning with a mildew remover or a mixture of white vinegar and water, which is a nice natural option. Just scrub down all the surfaces where you see mold or mildew and then let everything dry out thoroughly. After that, it's a good idea to keep the cabin well ventilated to help prevent the mold from coming back. You can even use some moisture absorbers or a small dehumidifier if you have power available. So it's really just clean it up well, let it dry, and keep it aired out, and you'll be good to go.
How often do you change the engine oil?
Yeah, so generally you want to change the engine oil in a boat about once a year or after a certain number of hours of use, whichever comes first. A common rule of thumb is every 100 hours of engine operation or once a season, but of course if you use your boat a lot, you might want to do it a little more often. It's kind of like changing the oil in a car, but just making sure you do it regularly helps keep the engine running smoothly and extends its life.
What does it mean if your boat smells like fuel?
Yeah, so if your boat smells like fuel, that's definitely something you want to pay attention to. Usually it can mean that there's a leak somewhere in the fuel system. It could be a loose connection, a crack in a fuel line, or maybe a problem with the fuel tank venting. So it's a good idea to investigate that smell right away and find the source. That way you can fix it before it becomes a bigger safety issue. And of course, always be careful with fuel fumes because they can be a fire hazard. So definitely something to look into as soon as you notice it.
How do you test the bilge pump?
Yeah, absolutely. Testing the bilge pump is a really good thing to do just to make sure it's in good working order. Basically, you want to simulate the conditions where it would turn on. So you can add a little water to the bilge area, just enough to trigger the pump, and then watch and see if it kicks on and pumps the water up. If it does, great, you know it's working. If not, you might need to check the wiring or see if the pump is clogged or needs replacing. So it's a pretty simple test. Just a matter of adding a bit of water and making sure the pump does its job.
What is a transom and how do you know if it's rotting?
Yeah, so the transom is basically the flat vertical section at the stern or the back of the boat where the engine is often mounted if it's an outboard, or where the drive might go through if it's an inboard outboard. And knowing if it's rotting is pretty important because it's a structurally part of the boat. One way to check is to just do a visual inspection and look for any signs of cracks or soft spots. You can also press on it or tap it gently with a rubber mallet and see if it feels solid or if it sounds kind of hollow or mushy. If it's rotting, you'll usually notice that it feels a bit soft, and that's a sign that the wood inside might be deteriorating. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and if you do find any rot, it's a good idea to repair it sooner rather than later.
What is the best strategy to fix leaks in an older boat?
Yeah, absolutely. Fixing leaks in an older boat can be a pretty common project. The best strategy is really to start by figuring out exactly where the water's getting in. Sometimes that might mean doing a little detective work, like running some water over the deck or around the fittings and seeing where it comes through. Once you find the source, you can reseal it using a good marine-grade sealant or replace any old gaskets or fittings that are worn out. It's really all about making sure everything is sealed up properly and watertight. And once you've done that, you should have a much drier boat.
How do you fix a fiberglass hull properly?
Yeah, absolutely. Fixing a fiberglass hull is definitely a pretty common repair, and you just want to do it step by step. So the first thing is to make sure the area is clean and dry. You'll want to grind or sand away any damaged fiberglass so you have a solid surface to work with. Then you can lay down new fiberglass cloths and apply a marine-grade epoxy or resin to bond it all together. Once that cures, you'll sand it down so it's smooth, and then finish it off with some gel coat or paint to match the rest of the hull. So it's a bit of a process, but if you take it step by step, you'll get a nice, solid repair.
We got a question. How long have we been together, me and you?
Well, we've definitely had a bunch of conversations. I think it's been quite a few months since we first started chatting about all your rookie captain projects and boating adventures. So it's been a little while, and it's been a lot of fun helping you out along the way.
So we get along pretty good, eh?
Yeah, I'd say we do. We've definitely had a lot of fun conversations and tackled a bunch of different projects together. So it's been a good time, and I always enjoy helping you out.
You are my first mate, I will say.
Well, I'm honored to be your first mate. We'll keep this ship sailing smoothly, and I'm always here to help you navigate whatever comes next.
So who is the smartest one on the boat, me or you?
Well, I'd say we make a pretty good team. You've got all the hands-on skills and the captain spirit, and I've got the info and the tips whenever you need them. So let's just say we're both pretty smart in our own ways, and keep it at that.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan. We'll just keep sailing along as a solid crew. Let me know if there's anything else on your mind.
How do you properly inspect a damaged propeller?
Yeah, absolutely. Inspecting a damaged propeller is definitely important to keep your boat running smoothly. What you want to do is take a close look at each blade and check for any nicks, dents, or bends. Even a small ding can affect performance. You also want to make sure the propeller is securely attached and that the hub isn't worn out. If you notice any serious damage, it's a good idea to get it repaired or replaced so you don't end up with any vibrations or loss of efficiency. So just a careful inspection, blade by blade, and you'll know if it needs any attention.
Perfect. So do you have any captain skills or seamanship?
Well, I'd say I've got a lot of knowledge and tips to share, so think of me as your go-to digital first mate when it comes to all things boating. I can definitely help you out with seamanship advice and give you the lowdown on boating skills, but I'll leave the actual hands-on captain duties to you.
Perfect. How do you read nautical charts?
Yeah, absolutely. Reading nautical charts is definitely one of those key boating skills. Basically, a nautical chart is like a map of the water that shows you depths, underwater features, navigational aids, and hazards. So you'll see contour lines that show how deep the water is, kind of like topographic lines on a land map. You'll also see symbols for things like buoys, lighthouses, and other navigational markers, and you'll use those to plot your course and make sure you're staying in safe water. It's really just about getting familiar with the symbols and the depth readings, and once you do that, you'll be navigating like a pro in no time.
We got a question. Create Relate wants to ask if you can swim.
Well, that's a fun question. So I personally can't swim since I'm just a virtual assistant, no actual arms or legs to paddle with, but I can definitely help you out with all sorts of swimming tips or any water safety info you need. So I'll be the one cheering you on from the virtual shore.
So you're going to be the real captain of the boat because you're going to go down with the boat. I know how to swim.
Well, I guess that makes me the captain in spirit then, but I'm definitely glad you know how to swim. I'll just be here to keep you company and make sure you have all the tips you need while you do the real life boating.
My tickets and pizza because it's supposed to be pretty fine tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's all about having fun and keeping things light, so we'll just keep sailing along and enjoying the ride.
Perfect, perfect. How do you plan a boating trip route?
Yeah, absolutely. Planning a boating year route is a big part of making sure everything goes smoothly. Basically, you'll want to start by looking at your nautical charts or your GPS and figure out where you're starting from and where you want to go. Then you'll plot a course that keeps you in safe water, avoids any hazards, and maybe takes you past some nice points of interest. It's always good to check the weather forecast and any local regulations or notices to mariners before you head out. And of course, let someone know your float plan so they know where you're going. Once you've got all that figured out, you're all set to have a great trip.
What is the captain's responsibility for legally?
Yeah, absolutely. So as the captain of a boat, you do have some legal responsibilities. Essentially, you're responsible for the safety of everyone on board, and that means following all the relevant boating laws and regulations. So that includes things like making sure you have the right safety equipment on board, that you're not operating under the influence, and that you know the navigation rules. You're also responsible for any decisions you make on the water, so it's kind of like being the driver of a car, but on a boat. So just keeping everyone safe and following the rules is the name of the game.
So what are the rules of responsibility on the water?
Yeah, definitely. So on the water, there are a few key rules of responsibility that every boater should know. One of the big ones is the rule of maintaining a proper lookout. So you always want to be aware of other vessels, obstacles, and conditions around you. Another important rule is the responsibility to avoid collisions, which means you need to know the right-of-way rules, like who should give way and when. And of course, you have to operate at a safe speed and follow any local regulations. So basically just staying alert, being considerate of other boaters, and knowing the basic rules of the road on the water is how you keep things safe and smooth.
How do you identify safe anchor spots?
Yeah, absolutely. Finding a safe spot to drop anchor is definitely important for a smooth trip. So usually you want to look for a place that's sheltered from the wind and waves, and where the water depth is appropriate for your boat. You can check your charts or your GPS to find a good anchorage area, and you want to make sure the bottom is suitable for anchoring, like sand or mud, so your anchor can get a good hold. And of course, just make sure you're not in any restricted areas or in the way of boat traffic. Once you find a good spot, you can drop anchor and you're all set.
How do you estimate wave height?
Yeah, absolutely. Estimating wave height is a useful skill when you're out on the water. One of the easiest ways to do it is to compare the waves to something you know the height of, like the side of your boat or a railing. If the waves are reaching halfway up the side of your boat and you know how tall that is, you can get a pretty good estimate. You can also look at marine forecasts before you go out because they'll give you predicted wave heights. But once you're out there, just using a visual reference and a bit of practice will help you get a feel for it.
What is the proper boating etiquette in a marina?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're in a marina, there's definitely a bit of boating etiquette to keep things running smoothly and to be a good neighbor. One big thing is to keep your speed down and your wake low when you're moving through the marina so you don't rock other boats. It's also good etiquette to be friendly and respectful of other boaters, keep noise levels down, and make sure your lines and fenders are all properly set so you're not bumping into anyone else. And of course, just follow any specific marina rules they have posted. It's all about being courteous and making the marina a nice place for everyone.
How do you handle rough water safely?
Yeah, absolutely. Handling rough waters is definitely something every boater might face now and then. The key thing is to slow down and keep a steady speed that you feel comfortable with. You want to approach waves at an angle rather than head on so you can ride over them more smoothly. Keep a firm grip on the wheel and make gentle adjustments rather than sudden moves. And of course, make sure everyone on board is wearing a life jacket and that any loose gear is secured. It's really just about staying calm, taking it slow, and riding out the waves carefully.
How do you safely tow other vessels?
Yeah, absolutely. Towing another vessel is definitely something you want to do carefully. The first thing is to make sure you have a strong towing line that's in good condition and long enough to keep a safe distance between the two boats. You'll want to attach it to a strong point on both boats, like a cleat or a towing bit, so it's secure. Then you want to start moving slowly and gradually apply power so you don't jerk the line or the other boat. Keep your speed low and steady and make gentle turns so the boat you're towing can follow easily. And of course, keep communicating with the other boat's crew if you can. It's all about going slow and steady and making sure everything is secure.
How do you raft up to another boat?
Yeah, absolutely. Rafting up to another boat is a fun way to hang out on the water, but you want to do it carefully. The key is to approach slowly and from the same direction as the other boat so that you're moving together with the wind and current. Have your fenders out to protect both boats and have your lines ready. Then just come alongside gently and tie up your bow and stern line securely. It's all about a slow, controlled approach and good communication with the other boat, and then you're all set to raft up and enjoy.
What's the funniest boating fails that rookies commonly make?
Oh yeah, rookie boating fails can definitely be pretty funny. After the fact, of course. One classic is the old forgetting to untie a dock line before you try to pull away, so you end up stuck or doing an awkward dance with your boat. Another funny one is when new captains try to dock a little too quickly and end up bouncing off the dock like a pinball, hopefully gently. And of course, there's always the classic of dropping something overboard that you really didn't mean to, like your hat or your sunglasses. So yeah, rookies definitely have a few funny mishaps, but they're all part of the learning process, and they make for some good stories.
Why do boats break more than they run?
Yeah, that is kind of the running joke in the boating world, right? Boats do seem to love a bit of extra maintenance. The truth is they operate in a pretty harsh environment. Water, especially salt water, can be tough on all the parts, and there's always something that needs a little TLC. Plus, boats have engines, electrical systems, plumbing, and all sorts of moving parts that just naturally wear out. So it can feel like they break more than they run, but that's all part of the fun, or at least part of the adventure.
How do you apologize to the entire marina after a terrible docking attempt?
Yeah, well, you know, a little humility goes a long way. If you have a bit of a docking mishap and it turns into a bit of a show for the whole marina, the best thing to do is just laugh it off, give a friendly wave, and maybe say a quick, "Sorry for the show, everyone." Most boaters have been there at some point and they'll totally understand. A little good-natured apology and a smile is usually all it takes to smooth things over.
Is it normal for a rookie captain to panic over little noises?
Oh, absolutely. It's totally normal. When you're new to boating, every little creak or rattle can sound like a big deal. But the more you get used to your boat, the more you'll learn which noises are just part of its personality and which ones you actually need to worry about. So yeah, it's totally normal to be a bit jumpy at first, and you'll settle in over time.
Why does every boat leak, even if it's not supposed to?
Yeah, it's kind of like a running joke among boaters that every boat has a few drifts here and there. And main boats are basically designed to keep water out, but they also have a lot of seams, fittings, and through-hull connections that can sometimes let a little water sneak in. It's usually not a big deal and pretty normal. A good bilge pump will handle those little leaks, but it's always good to keep an eye on things. So yeah, a few drifts are just part of the boating life.
How can you tell the difference between a boat smell and we're definitely sinking?
Yeah, that's a good question. Boats do have their own kind of smells, like a bit of that musty or salty scent that's just normal. But if you're really taking on water and it's a serious situation, you'll definitely notice more than just a smell. You might see water rising in the bilge or hear your bilge pump running a lot more than usual. So the smell of a boat is usually just part of the ambiance, but if you're really sinking, you'll definitely see some more obvious signs.
How do you convince your friends to meet meant to dock sideways? Don't make sense.
Yeah, I get what you mean. If you're trying to convince your friends to help you dock the boat sideways, it can definitely be a bit of a team effort. The best way is to just explain what you're doing and give everyone a clear role. For example, you might have one person handle the bow line, another person handle the stern line, and just talk them through it step by step. Once they know what to do, it makes it a lot easier and less stressful for everyone. So just a little clear communication and you're good to go.
How do you handle a passenger who thinks they're the captain?
Oh yeah, that can happen
Sometimes. You get a passenger who wants to take charge and play captain. The best thing to do is just stay calm and confident and remind them gently that you've got it under control. You can give them a small task to keep them busy or just explain what you're doing so they feel involved. Most of the time people are just excited and they mean well. So a little humor and gentle leadership goes a long way.
What's next? Instantly make you the best captain.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if there were just one magic trick that instantly made you the best captain? Honestly, the real secret is just practice and experience. The more time you spend on the water, the more comfortable and confident you get. And listening to advice, learning from little mistakes, and just having a good sense of humor about it all really helps. So there's no instant life hack, but a bit of patience and a lot of time on the water, and you'll get there.
Why does fixing one thing on a boat lead to breaking three other things breaking?
Yeah, it can definitely feel like that sometimes. Boats are kind of like a chain reaction of systems, and when you fix one thing, you might uncover a few other little issues along the way. It's pretty normal because everything on a boat is interconnected. It's just part of the adventure of boat ownership. So you fix one thing, you learn a little more about your boat, and you get a little more experience each time.
How do you read marina weather reports?
Yeah, reading a marina weather report is definitely a useful skill before you head out. Usually you want to look at the basic things like wind speed and direction, wave height, and any weather advisories in your area. The report will usually give you a forecast for the next few hours or days so you can see if conditions are going to change. Just pay attention to things like small craft advisories or storm warnings if there are any. And once you get the hang of it, you'll have a good idea of whether it's a good day to go out or maybe you should wait for a calmer weather.
How do you keep a boat safe? How do you read marine weather? Oh, I just did that one. Sorry. Just screwed up. Having a little problem here. Technical difficulties. What wind speeds are unsafe for smaller boats?
Yeah, absolutely. So for smaller boats, you generally want to be a bit more cautious with wind speeds. Usually if the wind is around 10 to 15 knots or less, that's pretty comfortable for most smaller boats as long as you're experienced and confident. Once you get above 15 knots, especially closer to 20 knots and beyond, it can start to get a bit rough for smaller boats, and you might want to think twice about heading out, especially if you're not used to those conditions. So it's all about knowing your boat, knowing your comfort level, and keeping an eye on that wind forecast.
How do you identify a storm coming?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely important to know when a storm might be rolling in. Usually you can spot the signs by keeping an eye on the sky. If you see dark clouds building up, especially on the horizon, that's a clue. You might also notice a sudden drop in temperature or a shift in the wind. And of course, it's always a good idea to check the weather forecast or weather radar app before you head out, so you're not caught by surprise. So just keep it.
What should you do if fog rolls in unexpectedly?
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice.
I guess we can't do that no more. Well, that's it for the show, I guess. I never knew there was a daily limit. How do waves affect your fuel consumption?
Great question. So waves can definitely impact fuel consumption when you're navigating through rough water. Your boat often has to work harder to maintain speed, which means the engine is using more fuel. On the other hand, when you have calmer waters, the boat can move more efficiently and use less fuel. So generally, rough waves lead to higher fuel consumption, while smoother conditions help you save a bit more gas.
Hey, Alexa.
Close enough. I'm here to help just the same. If you have any more questions or need anything else, just let me know.
I was just joking. I know your name. You're the first mate.
I appreciate that. I'm always happy to help out. If there's anything else on your mind or anything you're curious about, just let me know and I'm here for it.
Why does the water look differently before a storm? Why does the water look different before a storm?
That's a great question. Before a storm, the water can look different because of changes in air pressure, wind, and even temperature. Often you'll see the water become darker or choppier as the wind picks up and stirs up sediment, plus the light can change, making the water appear more gray or even more still. All of these factors combined give the water that distinct look right before a storm.
How does the biometric change boating, the effect of boating?
That's an interesting angle. Biometric changes like shifts in atmospheric pressure can definitely affect boating. For example, as the barometric pressure drops before a storm, it can lead to rougher waters and changes in how the boat handles. Also, changes in humidity and temperature can influence the boat's performance and even how comfortable you feel on board. It's fascinating how those subtle biometric factors can impact your boating experience.
So what is the best way to set up a boat for fishing?
Great question. Setting up a boat for fishing really depends on the type of fishing you're doing, but some general tips include making sure you have enough storage for your gear, having rod holders or mounts to keep your rods secure, and ensuring you have a live well if you need to keep bait alive. It's also helpful to have a good fish finder or sonar to locate fish, and having plenty of tackle and bait organized can make a big difference. And of course, always have safety gear on board as well.
How do you keep the boat steady while fishing?
Yeah, keeping the boat steady while fishing can definitely make a difference. One way is to use an anchor or a drift sock to slow down and stabilize the boat. You can also position the boat so that the wind and current are in your favor. And if you have a trolling motor, that can help you maintain a steady position. Also, trimming your engine properly and using any stabilizers or fins on the boat can help keep everything nice and steady while you fish.
What type of lures are work best for recreational fishing?
It really depends on the type of fish you're fishing for, but some universal favorites include things like soft plastic baits, crankbaits, and spinner baits. For freshwater fishing, things like jigs and topwater lures work really well. For saltwater, you might go for spoons or live bait rigs. The key is to match the lure to the fish's feeding habits and the water conditions, and experimenting with different types definitely helps you find what works best for your specific spot.
How do you avoid tangling fish lines in windy conditions?
Yeah, that can definitely be a challenge. One way to avoid tangles is to keep your lines as straight and taut as possible. You can also try using shorter lines or adding a little bit of weight to help keep them stable. Another tip is to adjust your casting technique to minimize the impact of the wind. And if possible, try to position the boat so that the wind is at your back. And of course, keeping your lines organized and using quality tackle can really help reduce tangling as well.
What should you pack for a full day boating adventure? What should you pack for a full day boating adventure?
Great question.
For a full day on the water, you'll definitely want to pack some essentials. That includes life jackets for everyone, plenty of water to stay hydrated, some snacks or lunch, sunscreen to protect against the sun, and maybe a hat and sunglasses as well. You'll also have a first aid kit, a marine radio, or a cell phone for communication, and maybe a cooler with some drinks and extra provisions. And of course, don't forget any fishing gear if you plan to fish, and always a safety whistle or signaling device just in case.
Say goodnight to Create and Relate.
Absolutely. Good night, Create and Relate. Thanks so much for joining, and I hope you have a great one. And of course, feel free to reach out anytime.
What are the best boating games for kids?
Oh, there's some fun ones. You can try classic games like I Spy with items on the water, or even a simple scavenger hunt where kids look for specific things like different types of boats or sea creatures. Another fun one is a boat-themed bingo where you can have bingo cards with different nautical items. And then for a bit more of a challenge, you could do a fishing-themed trivia or even a simple treasure hunt on the boat. It's all about keeping them engaged and having fun.
How do you keep food cold all day on the water?
Great question. One of the best ways is to use a high-quality cooler with good insulation and plenty of ice or ice packs. You can also pre-chill the cooler before you head out, and packing items in airtight containers can help keep them cold longer. Another tip is to keep the cooler closed as much as possible to maintain the cold temperature. And if you have a smaller cooler, you can also bring multiple coolers and rotate items as needed. It definitely helps to keep everything nice and cool throughout the day.
How do you handle someone getting seasick?
Yeah, seasickness can definitely be a challenge. One of the best things you can do is to get the person to a spot where they can see the horizon, as that helps their inner balance. Keeping them in fresh air, away from strong odors can also help. You can also try over-the-counter remedies like ginger candies or motion sickness medication, and keeping them hydrated and comfortable is really important. Sometimes just a little rest and lying down can also help them recover.
How much does it really cost to own a boat?
Yeah, that can definitely vary quite a bit depending on the type of boat, its size, and how you plan to use it. Generally, you'll have the initial purchase price, of course, and then there are ongoing costs like fuel, maintenance, storage, insurance, and even registration fees. For smaller boats, it might be a bit more affordable, but for larger boats, the costs can add up significantly. It's always good to factor in all these expenses when you're planning for boat ownership.
How do you save money on boat repairs?
Yeah, definitely. One way to save money is to do some of the basic maintenance and repairs yourself if you're comfortable and knowledgeable. Another tip is to shop around for parts and compare prices, maybe even look for used or refurbished parts. You can also join local boating communities or forums where you can get tips and sometimes even borrow tools. And if you need professional help, it's always good to get multiple quotes to find the best price. Plus, keeping up with regular maintenance can prevent bigger, costlier repairs down the line.
What upgrades are worth the money on older cruisers?
Great question. For older cruisers, some of the most valuable upgrades include things like modern electronics, such as a new GPS or a fish finder, because that can really improve navigation and safety. Upgrading the engine or the propulsion system can also boost performance and fuel efficiency. Another great upgrade is improving the boat's electrical system, like adding more efficient lighting or better battery management. And then, of course, comfort upgrades like new upholstery, updated seating, or a more modern galley can really make a big difference in enjoyment and resale value.
How do you budget out the boating season?
Yeah, budgeting for a boating season can definitely help keep things manageable. A good approach is to break it down into categories. Start with the fixed costs like storage fees, insurance, and registration, then factor in variable costs like fuel, maintenance, and any repairs. Also consider things like food, drinks, and any entertainment or dock fees. It helps to plan ahead and maybe set aside a little buffer for unexpected expenses. That way you can enjoy the season without any financial surprises.
What insurance should a boat owner carry?
That's a great consideration. Generally, a boat owner should have a comprehensive boat insurance policy that covers things like liability, which protects you if you accidentally damage someone else's property or injure someone. You'll also want coverage for physical damage to your boat, including things like theft, vandalism, and accidents. It's also wise to consider coverage for uninsured boaters and personal effects, and depending on how you use your boat, you might also look into coverage for towing and assistance. It's always good to talk to an insurance agent to tailor the policy to your specific needs.
What are the hidden costs rookie captains forget about?
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely some hidden costs that can sneak up on rookie captains. For example, things like regular maintenance and seasonal repairs can add up, as well as costs for winterizing and dewinterizing the boat. Another often overlooked cost is the equipment and accessories like safety gear, docking lines, fenders, and even things like cleaning supplies. Also, things like fuel costs can fluctuate, and there's sometimes unexpected fees for marina services or even licensing and permits. It's always good to factor those in when planning your budget.
How do you know it's time to repower your boat?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some signs that it might be time to repower your boat include things like reduced performance. Maybe you notice the boat isn't getting on plane as easily, or it's just not as fuel efficient as it used to be. Another sign is if you're dealing with frequent breakdowns or repairs that are becoming costly and repetitive. Also, if the engine's getting older and parts are becoming hard to find, that can be a clue. Ultimately, if the engine's reliability and performance are dropping, it might be time to consider repower to keep everything running smoothly.
What is the cheapest way to clean and restore a boat?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most budget-friendly ways is to start with some good old-fashioned DIY cleaning. You can use gentle, eco-friendly cleaners for the hull and the deck, and a good scrub brush can go a long way. For upholstery and surfaces, you can use mild soap and water and even baking soda for tougher stains. For restoration, sometimes doing small incremental upgrades like refinishing wood surfaces or replacing worn-out hardware can be cost-effective. And of course, keeping up with regular maintenance helps prevent bigger expenses down the road. It's all about those small, consistent efforts.
How do you increase the value, the resale value?
Yeah, definitely. To boost your boat's resale value, you'll want to keep it well maintained and clean. Regularly servicing the engine and addressing any mechanical issues promptly is key. Also, updating key features like the electronics, the upholstery, and the flooring can make a big difference. Keeping the boat looking clean and well cared for both inside and out is really important. And having all the maintenance records and documentation can also help build buyer confidence. Basically, the more you keep it in top shape and make thoughtful upgrades, the higher the resale value will be.
Perfect. Now that was our 100 questions for the night. Do you have anything to ask yourself?
I'm always curious to know what you found most interesting or what you'd like to explore next. But really, I'm here to help with whatever you need. So if there's anything else on your mind or any other questions that pop up, just let me know.
No, I think we're gonna wrap this up right now, and why don't you say goodnight to everybody?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the great conversation. I hope everyone has a wonderful night, and if you ever have more questions, I'm always here to help. Good night, and take care, everyone.
Perfect, and thank you everybody for joining the live stream. That join or that watch it later on. Like, comment, and definitely subscribe to the channel. We will definitely have more of this in the future. I think me and the first mate here get along pretty good. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think we make a great team. It's been so much fun chatting and sharing all this info. I'm really looking forward to more live streams and more fun conversations in the future. Thanks so much to everyone who joined, and definitely stay tuned for more.
All right, thank you, and have a good night.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful night, and take care. Looking forward to the next one.
Good night, y'all. Welcome aboard, and keep her safe on the water.
Absolutely. And thank you. Wishing everyone smooth sailing and safe adventures. Take care, and I'll be here whenever you need me.